side that's been covered that I'll probably eat at 11:30 tonight. That is fine. It'll be really good then. I want to thank you once again for coming out. The Fredericksburg Tea Party is starting its 10th year in existence. 10 years. And we've grown a lot. And we are still, a lot of the things we do, we have our regular monthly meetings, the second Thursday of every month at Backwoods Barbecue. And if all of you guys show up next month, we're going to have to find another place to meet. But Backwoods Barbecue, great food as well. We meet there at 6:30 to 8. And one of the big bonuses about there is the restaurant closes at 8, and very often they have leftover ribs and things, and so you can get a pretty good bargain on at the end of the evening there. One of the other things we do is we go to, during the legislative session, we go to Austin every single Tuesday during the legislative session, and there we work with other grassroots groups and other organizations that you're going to get a chance to meet this evening. And that is another one of our activities. We have just recently started what is the Heritage Foundation out of Washington is running a quarterly meeting with us down here. So if federal issues are your biggest issue, then be watching our email for our quarterly meetings with Heritage Action. And they do a tremendous job in Washington, and we're working hand in hand with Heritage Action on quarterly meetings with them. So that's another thing we're doing. We're still, the principles we stand on, we still stand on them. That's a constitutionally limited federal government. A fiscally limited government. Personal responsibility, that's one of our big ones. Personal responsibility. We also believe in sovereignty. We believe in national sovereignty and state sovereignty. We believe in the 10th Amendment. So thank you again for being here. You know, you always have to go through the thank yous, and these are so very, very important. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors. And these are people who are sponsoring this evening, and we couldn't do it without these people. So we've got Texas Right to Life, which is where... We have Texas Homeschool Coalition, which is right here. We have my good friend Don and Pam Stefanoff, who are over here, and Reed right here. And they helped us buy my first home, so that makes a special bond between us. How about then Fredericksburg Winery? Cora, where are you at? Fredericksburg Winery. Thank you so much for the wine. I see a lot of empty bottles back there. I'm assuming Cora brought them with liquid in them. Then we have Allstadt Brewery, which is a new brewery here in town. I noticed they had a red beer and a green beer and a blue beer, so someone will have to tell me what those are all about sometime. We also have our hometown favorite, Kyle Biederman and Biederman's Ace Hardware. There's Kyle right there, Kyle and Marty right there. Thank you guys for helping us out. And Ace is, I'm in there about twice a day. In fact, if I go on vacation, they call the police because they think I've gone missing. Gun Owners of America, please, these guys are great. Hear from them in a minute on their accomplishments in the last session and what they plan on doing in the next session. And then probably Grassroots America, We the People, is Joanne Fleming at this table right here. Joanne keeps all the Texas, not all of them, she keeps a lot of the conservative Texas grassroots organization. She herds them like cats. We meet occasionally and we get together and we make a difference up at the Capitol. And when people quake when they see Joanne walking down the halls at the Capitol, and I am not exaggerating, they run for their offices. Joanne is a tremendous influence and is pulling together all the grassroots workers in the state of Texas. Thank you, Joanne. Larry and Alice Irvin. Larry, where is your table? Thank you so much, you guys, for sponsoring this evening. Thank you. And the Convention of States, who have been, they just, every time I turn around, they're there. And so, Convention of States folks, they're right over here. Y'all didn't bring those, who was it? Oh, did y'all bring that other John something society that, don't they follow y'all around a lot? The John Birch Society is not in agreement with those fellas, and I think last time we had them speak, they got hijacked by the John Birchers who came in. So anyway, thank you guys at Convention of States. We also want to recognize our friends Diane Stye, Jim Bennett, and Alan Irene Smith, who also made this evening possible. And now I have some prizes. What we do, every time we have an event, when we have our annual event, we give a little package to what we call the first responders, and those are the first 10 people that bought tickets at our website. So please come up if I call your name. It looks like I'm going to have to read them right off the bag. Here we go.
You got it? You want me to help you?
Would you help me? That is Robert. I can't read that. Dorian?
Dozier.
Close. Dozier.
Dozier.
It's the Doziers. Doziers, please come up. Terry Hall. There's Terry right there. Terry is doing everything possible to keep toll roads out of the state of Texas. She's the go-to gal on transportation in the state and also federal. Pat Fry, come on down, Pat. Pat is from Mountain View, or sort of, Round Mountain, one of those mountains. Oh, okay. And his good friend, we met at, where was it? I think it was a Heritage event a couple of years ago, and we've become very, very good friends. Mary, oh, Sadie, Mo's wife. Mary, please come on up, Mary and Mo. And these guys are fighting hard in Fredericksburg, and they're fighting an uphill fight. And so you need to get with Mo, you need to get with Mary if you want to make some changes here in Fredericksburg. These people are working really hard. Here we go. Alan, oh, I'm so sorry, Andreessen? Andreessen, is that what it would be? Uh-oh, we're in trouble. We'll go to the next one. I know Jonathan. Jonathan Johnson? Jonathan, come on down, please. Jonathan's one of our regular members. He always has great questions, no matter who our guest is. Jonathan has a stack of questions for him, and we appreciate Jonathan. Dennis Ridner, come on down, Dennis. And by the way, these packages have all kinds of cool things, and at the last minute I put a squashed penny from the Texas Rangers Heritage Center out of that machine in the back, so don't lose your penny. I love those squashed pennies. All right, here we have one for, Bill Bartusi. Bill, another regular attender at Fredericksburg Tea Party, always lots of good questions. There's Bill right back there. Leslie Mann, and I knew I should look over this. Shane Stolen-Crier, man, I am messing all these up again. So, that's Shane. Store Larson, and I think he wants your vote. I think he wanted to get, it hasn't worked for you already, it's because you've been hiding somewhere. I get it, we gave him permission to work the room. We can't figure it out. All right, may not be here. All right, thank you so very much. And then also the people, this is very important, the people who make these things happen. The Fredericksburg Tea Party Steering Committee, would you please stand? I believe we've got a handful of them over there. There's Angela. Susan Dantzler, special thank you to Susan for the decorations and all of her hard work. She was up here all day yesterday and then most of the day today. Susan, thank you so much. Hillary Parker, who's running our audio right now and is our social media person and graphic designer. Thank you, Hillary. And everybody who was here yesterday, give yourself a hand and a pat on the back. Appreciate that. And then I have also Nathan McDaniel, who works with Chip, and also Chip Roy, and we'll have them up here in a minute. But thank those guys for helping us pull this evening together. Thank you so much. And then the last name I have on here is, this is very important, is when this group was formed about 9 years ago, it was formed by 3 women, Angela Smith being one of them. For various reasons, the 3 ladies over a period of several years had to step down. The leadership changed a few times, but those 3 ladies brought this thing together. I came in and I warmed a seat for about 2 years before I got involved. And then on the Wednesday after that dark, dreary November Wednesday of 2012, when we didn't know what we were going to do, our president of our Tea Party stepped down and said, I can't do this anymore, and we were about to close down. And I said, well, let me see if I can hold this together for a little while. And so I held it together for a couple of years, and every time I saw Angela in HEB, hello everybody, every time I saw Angela at HEB, I said, Angela, we've got to have you back, we've got to have you back. And she said, I'm not quite ready. We finally got her back, and then we started growing again. She got this started, it went into a little period of sleep, and then Angela has got it moving again. Everything we do and everything we have going on, Angela has a huge hand in it. And we just, I can't pull off events like this, you guys. We'd be, eating on paper plates and cardboard signs and magic markers and things like that. So Angela Smith, please give Angela a huge hand. This evening, we started a couple of years ago giving a percentage, about 10% of the proceeds from this event to a local organization, someone locally, something we can do, help here and pass it on back here locally. And this year is an organization called Starbright Foundation, and they work with folks with developmental disabilities, and the proceeds, a portion of tonight's proceeds are going to go to some scholarships for family camp, the HEB family camp. And these scholarships are going to be local people. They're going to be people from our community here in Fredericksburg to go to the family camp. And so we have a short video, just about 1.5 minutes long. We'd like you to pay attention to this for just a second. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Patty Rue.
And I'm Tony Rue. We operate a nonprofit organization called Starbright Foundation that serves individuals with special needs in the Hill Country and San Antonio areas.
And our mission is to provide services to families to be able to attend camp, either through our family camp or through other special needs camps for individuals. We also provide needed items that are not covered under Medicaid or other services for those individuals. We really want to say that it's donors like you that show the caring generosity that allows our program to be able to provide services that they do. We thank you again.
Speaking for the 250 families that we serve, thank you for your participation.
Very good. Okay, I'd like to bring some of our sponsors up here. We'll do this one at a time. If we can have Texas Right to Life come on up, please. This is weird. This is Steve Housley. Did I get that right? John Seagal. You know, these guys, there's Stephen right there. They're identical twins. Jonathan has been part of the groups that we work with up in Austin, and I'd like you to tell us what it is that we've accomplished in the past and what we're going to do, what you're doing in this next session, and also how we can help.
Great. Well, you've already done a lot. This Tea Party is active. I mean, weekly we get a text from Matt saying, "We're in the building. What do you want us to do?" And during the session, that's critical because these legislators, as you know, even if they have an R next to their name, they are looking for the easy way out. And when it comes to the pro-life issue, that is definitely what we see. Is Republicans want to look pro-life, they want to do something that sounds like they care about your values, but they don't want to do the heavy lifting. They don't want to take the controversial votes. They don't want to spend too much time having to argue with these Democrats on the floor or the moderate Republicans who oppose them on the floor. And so to have the grassroots voice there saying, no, this is a top legislative priority. You know, in Texas, we have 50,000 elective abortions every year. Now, I'm pro-life. That means that I understand that behind that number of 50,000, that represents individual human beings that deserve the basic constitutional rights that you and I do. That's 50,000 victims of an unjust murder that's taking the life of these children. They don't even have a voice to speak up for themselves. They don't have any means to protect themselves. I liked the joke that Steve Stockton used to make about we wouldn't have so many abortions if we protected the Second Amendment for preborn children. It makes sense. They can't protect themselves. This is the most innocent, and we have a party, the Democrats, and we have moderate Republicans who are completely apathetic towards our issue. And so having grassroots there, raining on it, when we had Chairman Cook would not give us a hearing on the dismemberment abortion ban. This was a bill that prohibited one specific type of abortion, and it would have made gains, it would have kind of struck at the foundation of Roe v. Wade, helped us overturn Roe v. Wade, which saved lives, and Chairman Cook, one chairman in the House, was stopping this bill. We'd already passed the Senate, and we were trying to get a hearing, get a hearing. We kept saying, okay, next week. That's when the grassroots showed up, and they're knocking on his door, they're giving him the cards, they're giving him the one-pagers, they're reminding everybody on that committee that this is what they want. There's enough co-authors, the grassroots is behind it, it was in the platform, this is what the grassroots was asking for, and to have those voices there is really critical. We eventually had to go around the speaker and go around Chairman Cook and get it as an amendment. So thankfully, we do have some great conservative champions in the House that weren't willing to take no for an answer from the moderate leadership that we saw in the House of Representatives. And so we did get that life-saving bill passed. We're actually fighting in court now because whenever our opponents lose in the elections, they don't give up. They still come and riot in the Capitol. They lose in the Capitol when we finally get around the speaker, and then they run to the courthouse. And so we have to fight for life every step of the way. Texas Right to Life, it's our honor to do that. We are committed to this cause just like we know you are, and it's the grassroots. You all, Matt, the leadership that we see, you guys showing up is critical to our efforts. So I'll give you a quick preview. Next session, we're working on something called PREDA. It's a non-discrimination act. It's the Preborn Non-Discrimination Act. It's a pro-life bill that tries to take some of the rhetoric of the left, tries to take some of the high moral ground that those who support abortion take when they talk about discrimination. They want to say we're the ones that are discriminating on this, that, and the other. So we're saying, you know what? The act of abortion is discriminatory. Abortion in its nature is a larger, stronger party preying on a smaller, weaker party. That's discrimination. And it's violent discrimination. It's deadly discrimination. So we're trying to use this framework and prohibit discriminatory abortions. And so this is a huge deal that we're working on. We want to stop the abortions and support those families. And so PREDA is what we're working on. It's a really dynamic piece of legislation. It's in the platform. It was listed as one of the legislative priorities from the convention. Came up from the grassroots through all of the precincts and the Senate district conventions. And we'll be working on that session right next to you guys in the halls of the Capitol.
And as part of the Republican platform, that's part of what we've tried to do every year is hold the Republicans to the platform. And that's one of the toughest things we do. And were you at the Capitol at the end of the 83rd session when we had the special session?
Yep.
Folks, we were up there and there was, I know Pastor Greg was up there, there was maybe a couple of hundred Christians standing around and a couple of thousand people on the other side of this equation. And at one point in time, the other crowd started marching towards us. It kind of got scary, but everything worked out. We need you to stand there with us, and we need you to stand there with Texas Right to Life. And John, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Now, Stephen, would you please come up? This is Stephen Housley with the Texas Homeschool Coalition, and I know you've been sitting at the table with Congressman Jordan. He homeschooled his kids through, I believe, the 6th grade, I heard earlier. So we got lots of homeschooling going on. Same thing. Tell us what y'all do and what we can do to help you, and are y'all doing anything on the T-Bow bill again this year? You gonna try that?
We are. So my name is Stephen Housley. I work as a public policy analyst for the Texas Homeschool Coalition. And so I guess real quick, before I get into what we're going to be working on, one of the things that I knew I wanted to mention here tonight was this, just in general, one of the most active groups we've been able to work with, at least since I've been on staff with THSC, has been the Fredericksburg Tea Party. And one of the stories I like to tell about them over and over again is I remember my first session working with them was one of the meetings that we have. We meet every single Tuesday, like he mentioned, and I remember seeing then very recently elected Representative Biederman coming in, and he'd come in almost every single week, and he would talk to them about articles that might have been written about him or about either the conservative cause that he was working on, and he would get the entire room's opinion on how he should respond in an op-ed piece or something like that. And so I think just in general, like the fact that you have representatives who are willing to be that open and transparent with you and that interested on getting your opinion is just incredible. And so I guess I just wanted to say, like, if you're in the Fredericksburg area, there's no better group to be a part of to actually get work done and to make a difference. And you have representatives who will listen to you.
That's right. Thank you, Kyle.
So as far as what we're going to be working on, it's going to be a lot of the same things. We got a lot of work done last session on CPS reform. We actually passed 9 different CPS reforms. I won't bore you with all the details on those, but I can tell you this for one thing, that's going to save families and potentially save lives. And that's really exciting to see how over the last session, obviously CPS was a hot topic for the session anyway. And so the fact that we were able to kind of ride that as well and be able to get a lot of work done was great. So we are going to be working on, you mentioned the Tim Tebow bill, which that one would give homeschoolers access to play sports and be part of extracurricular activities within the public school districts that they're a part of. That's an awesome opportunity that homeschool kids in 34 to 35 other states already have access to. And so we'd like Texas to not be behind the curve anymore and catch up on that. And then we're always working on family law reform as well. So basically anything that has to do with advocating for families, advocating for parents, advocating for children, we're going to typically have a voice on that and try to put in our 2 cents worth. And so far it's been great. But thank you all so much for working with us as you have, and we can't wait to work with you again this session.
Good. Are y'all going to have, is there going to be a homeschool day up at the Capitol this year?
I think so. So we do every single session. We try to do at least 2. We usually are able to do 3 Capitol Days events where we bring them out. We typically sell it out almost every single year, all 3 events. So each time, 350 homeschoolers from all across the state come in, and they look at our pieces of legislation. We explain to them how we lobby for legislation every single day. And then they go, and before they leave, they go to every single legislator's office before they leave. So they hit all 181 offices in one day, and they talk about that legislation. And these are, they're anywhere from 5-year-old kids to almost homeschool graduates going around and talking about bills that would help homeschoolers and help families, and it's incredible every single year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rachel, would you come on down? go around to the stairs. Thank you. Rachel Malone is with Gun Owners of America. I'll give you your own mic. There's it turned on. Yeah, it is. And I want you to tell us about our successes in the last session and what you want to do in the next session. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. So I am the Texas Director of Gun Owners of America, and my goal in life is to pass constitutional carry here in Texas. So here's the deal. Texas does not deserve its pro-gun reputation, its gun rights reputation. Shortly after the Civil War, Texas banned the carry of handguns. And it's very well documented that throughout the South, states passed laws like this, but they applied them very unfairly. They applied them to the freed slaves. So the roots of this original gun control law that's on the books here in Texas still today is extremely unjust. That stayed on the books until 1995 when we got our license to carry law, where if you got a license to carry, you could carry concealed. That stayed until 2015 when we passed licensed open carry in Texas. And to give you some perspective, Texas was the 45th state to pass licensed open carry. That's not cool, y'all. That's not cool at all. Currently, there are around 31 states who allow unlicensed open carry. So if you don't have a license, you're a resident of that state, you legally possess the gun, you may carry it openly. Texas is not on that list. Texas is not among the 31 states who do that. Texas is not among the over a quarter of the United States who allow constitutional carry, who recognize that if you legally own a firearm, you may carry that firearm, open or concealed, no permit required. Because folks, the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, well, first of all, the right to keep and bear arms doesn't come from the Constitution. It's God-given, and thankfully it's affirmed in the Constitution. Carrying guns makes us safer. More guns equal less crime. Since 1950, 97.3% of mass shootings have happened in places where guns were banned. So statistically, you are safer in places like this, where I know for sure there's at least one person carrying a gun, and I think there's quite a few more than. But ultimately, the purpose of the Second Amendment is to defend against a tyrannical government. And if you are going and asking the government for permission to carry your handgun, for permission to carry it, if the government is the one telling you who can carry a gun, when and where, isn't that self-defeating? Doesn't that defeat the purpose of the Second Amendment? So that's why my goal here in Texas is to pass unlicensed carry, constitutional carry. If you own the firearm, which means you can already carry it on your person, in your home, on your property, in your vehicle, you should be able to carry that, open or concealed, no license required. So here's how we're going to do that. For years, as a grassroots volunteer activist, I always said, it's all of us. All of you are the ones who are most qualified to make your own opinion known to the legislators. It's not all those lobbyists. They shouldn't be listening to lobbyists. They should be listening to you. And today, as one of Texas's newest registered lobbyists, I'm going to tell you exactly the same thing. It's not me they should ultimately be listening to. It's you, their constituents. They should be listening to you. And to that end, so I'm doing 3 things in order to pass constitutional carry. Yes, I'm doing my job and I'm talking to the legislators about the issues and I'm talking with their staff, working them through building the ramp to where they're comfortable and with understanding why we need constitutional carry. And secondly, I'll be also working on good bill language so we have good bills for you to ask your representatives to support. But the third thing I think is the most important thing. I'm traveling all around Texas, teaching you, the people, the legislative process so you know when to show up to make your voice heard the strongest and loudest, because I'm not going to pass constitutional carry alone. No one of us is going to pass any issue we care about alone. It's going to be all of us working together. And so what I'm counting on is all of you showing up at the Capitol. And I'd like to ask y'all, how many of you feel like if you saw incredible value in it, you could find some way to make it to Austin one day between January and May? Be honest.
One day.
One day, right? Pretty much everybody. So when I do my trainings, I show a picture of the Berlin Wall, when it was falling, with people streaming over and the word freedom written there. And I show that picture because I've heard that after the Berlin Wall fell, some of those who were so cruelly imprisoned by the tyranny in East Berlin said, you know what we realize now? If enough of us had gotten together and decided we were going to get over that wall, we could have done it. There might have been 50 or 100 of us, we could have overpowered the guards at that guard post. And some of us would have paid the ultimate price and would have been shot to death, but the others of us would have made it across. Couple reasons you should remember that story. For one, we're not East Berlin yet, but we're always only a few steps away from losing our essential liberties. But second, the sacrifice that they were going to have to make for freedom was ultimately loss of life by some people. The sacrifice that we here in our society have to make for liberty is taking out a little bit of our time to drive to Austin.
Yeah.
Taking out a little of our time to make those phone calls. So I want you to commit to doing that. How many of y'all are in for showing up and speaking up when it counts?
There you
Counting
go.
on y'all.
Rachel, thank you. We're going to have a training here at Rachel. Help her watch our newsletter for that. Thank you very much, Rachel. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move coming from the conventional sites table. I think one of you guys is. And then we'll have Joanne, and then we will get on with our evening with Jim and Chip, or Congressman Jordan and Chip. You came up the hard way too. Tell us why we need a convention of states, Henry.
Well, I'll kind of go on with what Rachel was just talking about. We have a grassroots army that is willing to help a lot of these organizations to get the required people in Austin to help back the legislation that they're wanting done. Mainly, our job is to try to educate people to understand how our governmental system was set up. Our system was set up by our founding fathers for us to be engaged. We need to be able to stand up, speak up, and show up at these events. Something like this, where the Tea Party puts these things on, this is where it all starts. But where the true impact takes place is when we make it to Austin. These guys, like we say, we're there every Tuesday during the session. We need to make sure that we show up on any type of issues that concern you. Our organization right now is talking about backing or supporting property taxes. That's one of our big issues in the state of Texas. And that's pretty much what we have, as an organization, talked about. So that's one of the issues we're going to be backing. We're trying to build coalitions with people like Gun Owners of America, any of the other organizations, Texas Right to Life, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting all of you in that, but there's several organizations. We're trying to build actual coalitions to get the conservative movement organized, kind of like what you see with these George Soros organizations. You've got people in those organizations, you know, one of them says something, the next thing you know, they've got 5 or 6, 7 different organizations, all backed by George Soros, that are supporting each other. We need to start doing that same thing, coalescing our organization or our conservative movement with different organizations. And that's what we're trying to do with working with the various Tea Parties. I know I've seen that there's a couple of other Tea Party
There are quite a few.
organizations being represented here, but we have done presentations and talked to some of them. And invariably, I mean, I know that you had mentioned the John Birch Society earlier in that. They oppose us. One of the things that I would like to say about opposition is, as long as they're opposing us, they have a right to their views, and as long as they're doing it peacefully and respectfully, I don't have a problem with that. But when you start issues like what Democrats do, they're talking about let's just say they're talking about wanting to disgrace somebody or talk negatively towards someone. That is not our fashion or our idea of getting something done. So we want to work with people, and that includes, John Birch Society. They have their right, we have our right. We want to have an honest, open discourse to be able to understand each other's differences and then let the people decide. That's what it's all about.
Thank you, Henry. Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. My hero, Joanne Fleming.
Thank you. That's very nice of you, Matt. Hello, Texas. I know you want to hear Jim Jordan, and I do too. I've heard Jim speak before, and I have to tell you, Jim was on Fox and Friends the other day, and he rattled off a list of things that the Republican leadership should be doing, and I said, you know what? Jim Jordan is our kind of guy. We need to make him an honorary Texan. Freshman's America, We the People have started a thing, a big coalition of Tea Party and conservative Republican groups across Texas, and I'm here to tell you that we have grown that coalition of opinion leaders by 85% in the last year. And what does that mean? Right here in this county, Matt Long and some others are going to be working on building a Senate district coalition. We're going to do that across the state of Texas because if you unite people around founding first principles instead of personalities, if you unite conservatives around principles, you know what? They have something to fight for, something that's lasting. And I have to tell you that Matt and Angela and all the great people with the Fredericksburg Tea Party are people that we can depend on. You don't have to beg them to look at a coalition project or a letter and ask them to beg them to sign on. They are just right there. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to be fighting for constitutional carry next session. We're going to fight for the pro-life issues. We're going to fight to pass lasting property tax reform in the state of Texas so that you can own your home and not rent it from the government. And we're going to fight to end taxpayer lobbying. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of paying taxes that fund lobbyists that in Austin, Texas, they fight against us. I'm tired of that. The other thing we're going to do with Matt's help is we're going to try our best to end the targets that bring illegal immigrants here. The people of Texas and the people of the United States ought to be able to determine who comes into our house and who stays. And we also sanctuary businesses and industries.
Yes.
That is a rule of law issue and we need to get back to it. Matt, God bless you. We're happy to support you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you very much. And there were a couple of things that came across here. He's from Ohio. That's the only state that's round on both ends and high in the middle. I learned that in the 6th grade. Was that a 6th grade? 2nd grade. Slow. He has announced recently that he's going to be running for the Speaker of the House. He is a founding member of the Freedom Caucus and was the first, would you call it the president or chairperson or something, for the first chair for the Freedom Caucus. And we followed his example here in Texas, and Kyle, along with some other people, formed our own Freedom Caucus in Texas. So we thank Jim for leading the way. And there's a whole list of things he did that he got awards for, and this and that, Defender of Life Award, Legislator of the Year Award. But my favorite one, in fact, if I were him, I'd get a name badge. It says in Vanity Fair last year, John Boehner made a statement about Jim Jordan. I'm okay to quote this, or well, it's kind of late now, isn't it? This is what I put on my name tag. It said here, John Boehner asked about him, about Jim Jordan's legislative background, and he said Jordan was a terrorist legislator going back to his days in the Ohio House and Senate. A terrorist, a legislative terrorist. That's what I want in Washington D.C. Thank you very much. first member of Congress to sign the No Climate Tax Pledge, which read, "I will oppose any legislation relating to climate change that includes a net increase in government revenue." We followed that with votes on the Outer Continental Shelf for oil drilling, preventing the EPA from regulating greenhouse gases, all kinds of things like that we're very proud of here, that we don't see as a proper role of the federal government. He has also questioned, he's also very strongly against the Planned Parenthood and the federal government supporting Planned Parenthood. And he was also a wrestler, and I just want him to know that here in Texas, we're big wrestling fans. You know, we've got John Bradshaw Layfield, who's not too far from here. The Undertaker was one of my favorites. Stone Cold Steve Austin actually has a home not too far from here. Stone Cold, yeah, has a home not too far from here. So Jim, would you give us a few comments, please, get us going here? Folks, welcome Jim Jordan.
You can sum that all up, you know, washed up has-been athlete, now a member of Congress. It's not a whole lot to brag about that. It's good to be with you. What a crowd, and thank you for what you do. I say this all the time. Look, I learned a long time ago, good things in life don't just happen. You want to accomplish anything of meaning, significance, or lasting value, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, and it takes, most of all, a willingness to get off the sidelines and get in the game and fight the fight. And you're all doing it. And when you do that, you get attacked for you know, being in the arena and fighting for the things that count, the things that make our country the greatest nation ever. So thank you all for doing just that. I tell Chip knows how this works. I tell my colleagues in the Freedom Caucus all the time, when you're fighting for the things that matter, the press is going to attack you. And we're seeing it all. We're seeing it with Judge Kavanaugh. It's just the nature of the business, particularly when you're fighting for conservative principles. And I tell my colleagues, if the press isn't saying something bad about you, you're not doing anything worthwhile. That's the way it is. So just remember that when you're fighting the things that count. I love that statement. I share it all the time. Y'all ever read Cal Thomas? Syndicated columnist writes a good line. It's a great line when he's talking about normal people and the elite national media. You know, the New York Times, the Washington Post. Cal Thomas says, I get up every morning, I read my Bible and the New York Times so I can see what each side's up to. Just keep that in mind. Thank you for having us, and most of all, thank you for helping this guy get to Congress. That's why I came down.
Well, why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about the Kavanaugh hearing? Do you mind? I mean, that's the latest, hottest thing. Can you tell us? Most of us are disgusted and angry at the whole show. Take it from there.
And look, we're in the House, and that's something in the Senate. I think it should be confirmed. I will tell you, the only time I've talked with Judge Kavanaugh was actually one of my best buddies, a wrestling buddy of mine at the University of Wisconsin, Dr. now Dave Goodspeed. His daughter clerked for Judge Kavanaugh. And so the judge flew from D.C. to Madison, Wisconsin a few years ago when Morgan, David and Lori's daughter, was getting married. And that shows the kind of guy he is. Took the time to, young lady who clerked for him to go to her wedding and got to visit with him. You can just tell he's a good man. The right values and right principles. I hope he gets confirmed. But it demonstrates the way the left is today. We were meeting earlier tonight. I talked about the extreme positions the radical left is taking in this country now. In fact, we did a tweet. I just love it. I never followed this Twitter stuff that close until I got shadow banned by Twitter. You guys know that? I didn't know what shadow ban meant. You know, I'm old. I didn't know all this high-tech stuff. But our staff said, you've been shadow banned. There's 435 members in the House, 100 in the Senate, 535. 4 get shadow banned. Gates, Meadows, Nunes, and Jordan. It's kind of interesting, the 4 that got shadow banned, right? And so Jack Dorsey at Twitter says, oh, it was a problem with our algorithm. And I said, problem with your algorithm? What'd you put in the algorithm? The names Gates, Meadows. So this is great. So I didn't follow this, but we did a tweet today where we said, today's left. Applaud Kaepernick, destroy Kavanaugh. I mean, think about it. That's what it's come to. And the left, I mean, they do applaud Kaepernick when he disrespects our flag. They embrace Cuomo when he says this country was never that great. And they cheer on Maxine Waters when she says, go harass people who support the president. That is scary positions they take. And so frankly, as we frame this election up over the next 30-some days and we help make sure Chip wins, it is their vision where they want to take this country. That radical vision, versus what the president has done in the 20 months he's been leading.
That's right.
Think about this, and I'll stop here and we'll let Chip talk because he's the one that's got to win this race here. But think about the president in 20 months. Unbelievable record. Regulations reduced, taxes cut, economy growing at 4.2%, lowest unemployment in 20 years. Gorsuch on the court, Kavanaugh going on the court. We're out of the Iran deal. The embassies in Jerusalem and the hostages have come home from North Korea. In 20 months, that's how we frame up the election, and we elect people like Chip Roy because he's going to go fight for the things you care about and help the president continue that good record.
Chip. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Congressman Jordan. Thanks for coming down here. I can't tell you enough about what this man has meant for freedom and liberty in the United States Congress. The idea that doing what you said you would do is somehow a strange concept in Washington, D.C., but yet it is something that is unfortunately not followed, and this guy is standing up and trying to make sure we do that we honor our commitments. He's putting himself out there to lead and give us an option instead of the lack of leadership that we're seeing in Washington right now. So I want to thank you, Congressman Jordan, for doing that. I'll take 1 second to address the Kavanaugh questions. I spent 5.5 years working in the Senate Judiciary Committee. I've been there. I worked on John Roberts' confirmation. I worked on Sam Alito's confirmation. I worked on a host of district judge and circuit court nominations. And I can tell you, what you saw on Thursday is number one, a glimpse, just a glimpse of what you will see if congressional Democrats take control of the United States House of Representatives. It is a glimpse of the circus show that you will see in Washington. What you saw in the Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday. And number two, it is a complete travesty what Senate Democrats did, not only to Brett Kavanaugh, but also to Dr. Ford and the way they handled that, and ignored the processes that the Senate Judiciary Committee had in place that could have protected both and could have had a system that would have worked. That's how we did it. They ignored it. They did it for political purposes. They should be ashamed of themselves. And we all know what's going on, and it is now our opportunity to get it right and make sure that we elect people like Senator Ted Cruz, make sure we elect myself and others to make sure we keep control of the House of Representatives and do what we need to do to get it right.
Yes, that's true. You know, one of our frustrations, and this is the things I hear a lot, is that we thought the Republicans were in control, you know, and so we know what the Democrats do when they have the House and the Senate and the White House. We know what they do. And we were told, give us the House, and we got it in 2010, we gave the House to the Republicans. In 2016, we finished up with the Senate. And so now we're looking around and we're saying, you know, you got the House, you got the Senate, you got the White House. Why are we not in control of not just this hearing, but of everything? Why does it seem like we're trying to be nice and take it however, whatever order you want to go in? Chip, go for it.
I'll give my shot and I'll give it to the guys up there fighting on it right now. Having seen it up close and personal as a staffer, but also just now in campaigning and watching, the problem really at the end of the day is excuses. You know, I've never met anybody in Washington who can come up with excuses faster. You know, I keep waiting for the day when they say, well, I'm sorry, you know, we don't have a majority in the Senate, we don't have 60 in the Senate, we can't get closure. One day they're going to come up and say, well, I'm sorry, we don't have 101 in the Senate, so we can't get it done. Right? I mean, that's what you expect, what you're seeing out of Washington. And the fact is, these guys have been saying, for as long as I can remember, balance the budget. Yet what did they just pass last week? Well, everybody was paying attention to Kavanaugh. They just passed a bloated bill that funds Planned Parenthood, doesn't fund the wall, and doesn't do anything that we wanted to do, and just blew the budget caps by, I don't even know, Jim would know, but they overspent over last year by $32 billion, heading towards $1 trillion deficits. That's what's going on. And you see the same thing on immigration, right? We had good bills on the floor of the House of Representatives. We had 196 votes for a good bill that Congressman Jordan and the Freedom Caucus put forward, but that leadership refused to whip. The leadership whipped the bill and asked President Trump to get behind the bill that would have been weaker on security and would have provided a path to citizenship for 5 million. Instead of the good bill, which would have secured the border, made sure we had an immigration system that works, and would have dealt with the DACA population in a humane way. And instead they whipped that bill, they got 121 votes compared to the 196 votes for the good bill. That's what you're seeing in Washington. You're seeing them try to say, well, we're going to pass Obamacare repeal, when it doesn't repeal another thing.
when it leaves in place the regulations that are driving up the cost. Doesn't do anything to undo the Medicaid expansion that was driving up the cost for all of us. And then they try to call that Obamacare repeal. Look, I'm going to tell you this, on all of that, to the point of the question, the reason I'm optimistic is because 10 years ago, because of you, and because of the people in this room, and because of the Tea Party wave across the country, in response to President Obama, we got the Freedom Caucus installed. It didn't exist 10 years ago. We got Rand Paul instead of Troy Grayson. We got Ted Cruz instead of David Dewhurst. We got Marco Rubio instead of Charlie Crist. And while not all of these guys do everything we want them to do every day, that is a vast improvement because of the work of the Tea Party. And what I'm here to tell you is right now, they listen when you all call, melt the phones down, mail bricks to their rooms. That's true. Mail bricks during the immigration fight to stop amnesty. Those are the things that make them listen. And we're winning if you guys stay engaged. And I'm really excited to see a room full of people here to hear Congressman Jordan.
Chip is exactly right. When you get to Washington, there's always a bazillion reasons not to do what you said you were going to do, and more importantly, what the voters elected you to do. But it all comes down to enough people with the political will to do what we said and do what we got elected to do. Never forget, this country, it's always been a small group of people who actually affect the change that counts. Clear back to when it all started. Any of you ever watched that, one of our family's favorite movies? Any of you ever watched the musical 1776? You watch it? Great show. Yeah, go over it. It was done in the bicentennial year, 1976. Great show about those guys in that hot summer in Philadelphia when they declared in the statement, in the document, why it was appropriate to commit treason, right? They laid it all out. It said, we're going to declare to the world why it's appropriate to start a new country where liberty actually counts. And they did it, and Adams is the driving force behind it. The best scene, the most compelling scene, I think, is near the end. Jefferson has written the document. And they're now doing what Congresses do. They're debating it, they're marking it up, they're amending, doing what we do in the legislature. So they're going through, and Adams is impatient. He wants to get moving. And one guy stands up and says, well, we need to change this paragraph. Because when King George sees it, it's just a little too tough. We need to change this paragraph. Adams rolls his eyes. Pretty soon another member stands up and says, yeah, in this other section here, we need to amend this a little too, because when Parliament sees this, it's a little too hard-hitting. Adams rolls his eyes. Third member stands up and says, this section has to go altogether, because this could jeopardize our deep-sea fishing rights off the coast of New England. And finally, Adams can't take it any longer. He stands up and says, it's a revolution, dang it. We're going to have to offend somebody. And the point is, it's not about offending anybody. It's about standing firm for the things that matter, that made us the special place where liberty actually counts. Today, liberty is under attack. It is. Whether it's these big social media platforms who say they're neutral and who aren't, whether it's the IRS targeting folks just like you a few years ago, which I thought was the worst thing I ever seen until this FBI thing came up. Liberty. Ask yourself a question. Jefferson said this: when government fears the people, there is liberty. When people fear the government, there is tyranny. Which direction are we trending? So that's what's going to compel us to make the changes. It'll never be a super majority, even though the vast majority of the country truly believes the things we do. It's always a smaller group fighting for the things that count, and that's why we started the Freedom Caucus. It's like we're sick of it. We're sick of too many people getting up there and not doing what they said. So we're going to put a group together. This guy's got to be a part of our group, and we're going to fight for the things that count, so that this country, the best country ever, can continue to lead the world.
So you've got about... So you have, is it true, about 40 to 45 members in the Freedom Caucus? You were telling me earlier about how you've got not enough weight to move the vote, but you're enough to put it. What I guess the point I made is how many is it going to take in the Freedom Caucus?
You never know, but look, one senator with their crazy rules can have a huge impact in the United States Senate. But in the House, you need a group of guys, a group of individuals. We got ladies in our group as well, but we need a group of individuals, a group of members who will stick together and fight. And so that's what we try to do. We look, you don't do it to, like I said, to offend people. I think I shared with the group earlier. I love our Vice President, the line. He's got a lot of good lines, but one of the things Mike said, Vice President Pence said was, he said, I'm a conservative and I'm not mad about it, right? No need to be mad about it. We got the truth on our side. So we try to fight for things with a smile on our face, but you have to fight. You have to stand, because that's the only thing that town knows. It's the only thing it knows. If you don't stand up and put together a group, you're never going to get it done.
So does Chip need an invitation to the Freedom Caucus, or he's already got one? There you go.
Yeah, I've already publicly said I'd be joining these guys, and you know what? They take notice in town. They've already noticed that. And look, I want to expand on one thing that Congressman Jordan said about the extent to which a minority of people or a small group of people can truly change things. And in 2013, you might remember Senator Cruz taking the floor of the Senate and making the case that we needed to defund Obamacare. Now, what happened? We had a backlash from the Senate leadership and all the folks that would say, well, again, back to my point, we don't have the numbers, right? Well, we can't have the votes. Well, President Obama will veto it, right? There's always a reason. There's always an excuse. There's always a statement about why we can't do it. It's exactly like Congressman Jordan was just explaining in the 1776 musical, right? There's always a reason why you can't go take a stand. But what did we do during that process? We've gone out and we went and engaged with the public in August of 2013. Senator Jim Jordan, a lot of folks that were going out and giving speeches. American people responded and said, yeah, we don't want Obamacare implemented. We don't want an individual mandate. We don't want prices to go up. All the things we knew that would happen. So we were meeting regularly in the Senate with the Freedom Caucus guys. And in fact, there was that super secret meeting in Tortilla Coast in the basement, right? We're all over there trying to strategize on what to do. And you know what? We started with a small group, and we built it up, and we ended up with the House joining forces with Senator Cruz in the effort to get it done, and the House was fighting. And they were sending bills over, and we were defunding Obamacare. And we had about half the Senate there, and we were that close to getting there, and then forcing President Obama to have to respond. But then the Senate leadership backed away. And then they kind of left us sitting on the floor of the Senate when Senator Cruz was trying to make the case on the floor. But that's how you get there. That's how you move the ball forward. It worked with BCA, with the cut cap and balance effort in 2011. That's exactly the same model, and we got it done. President Obama signed it. Think about it. We got through spending cuts with President Obama lowering the deficits from the $1.4 trillion level to about $400 billion. Now here we are looking at it again. That's how you make it happen, right? It's like Sam Adams saying it takes, tireless minorities willing to set brush fires of freedom, right? That's exactly the mentality you gotta have.
There is a documentary on Facebook right now called The Swamp, and I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see it. Have y'all both seen it? Done by some of your buddies, Representative Massey, Congressman Massey and Garrett or Buck and Bloom and Dave Bratt. If you haven't seen that, folks, there's 5 episodes out now. Each one is less than 10 minutes long. I think the 4th one's about 10 minutes and 15 seconds, so you're not looking at a huge commitment. But you have a roll of duct tape with you because your head's going to explode. And there's a couple of lines I want to pull out of there, and one of them has to do with the Speaker of the House and committee chairs and committee memberships and all of that. And in the past, the RNCC, the Republican National Congressional Committee, has a little menu they send out, and these guys in that video show the menu of the committees, A, B, and C committees. And depending on how much money you raise, then you can get the A committee, and if you don't raise them, as much. And they even send bills out to these guys as if service is rendered, and it was real scary. That was very scary. That was like in the 3rd episode. First of all, the Veterans Affairs is a C committee, which probably bothers me more than anything. I think that should be an A committee if we're going to have A, B, and C committees. Veterans Affairs needs to be one of those. So as we gain the majority in the House, we get you in as Speaker of the House. How do these things change?
Well, what we have to change is it's so top down. That's just contrary to what this country's about. Really, 3 people: the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and the Whip run everything, because there's a committee called the Steering, without getting into all the details. So there's a steering committee, which is the committee on committees. That committee decides who gets to be members of the A, B, or C committees and who gets to be chairman. And there's weighted voting. So the speaker actually gets 5 votes. He gets his 4 votes, and then he gets to put one of his special people, his designee on that committee, so that person votes how he wants. The majority leader gets 2 votes, the whip gets 2 votes. So those 3 people have 9 votes. They control everything, because that 9-vote block can decide what committees, when Chip is elected as your member of Congress, where he's going to be assigned, what committees he's going to get, and who are going to be the chairman of all those respective committees. So that's where all the power is. I think that's contrary to the American model, particularly the House. Remember, the founders wanted the House to be the body closest to we the people. That's why every 2 years, you all get a chance to throw us out. And that's a good thing. Keeps us honest. Keeps us coming back home, talking and figuring out and doing the right thing. So that's what it's supposed to be. But now this top-down structure where 3 people basically control everything, that is not, I shared this earlier, but think about the model closest to ours, Great Britain, the one we rebelled against and started our own country from. In that country, the people finally got rights, but it was a gradual top-down approach, right? God gave power to the monarch, the king and the queen. They gave power then to the nobles and the landowners, and then to the merchants, and then the shopkeepers, and then finally to the commoners. In our country, we said, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to say, we the people loan power to government to protect the rights we have because we were made in God's image, right? Because we have these God-given rights that we got because we're human beings. So, completely different model, but a grassroots model. So I think the House has to work in that same fashion. If we do, 435 members, all representing about the same number of people, will all have a much bigger say, and I think when you do that, we actually get better policy.
Do you think it's a good idea to let the committees choose who their chairperson is going to be, as opposed to the speaker choosing the chairperson?
Definitely. If we keep the majority, which is priority number 1, we keep the majority, there are going to be 9 new committees open up. You want the folks on that committee to select who they think will be best equipped to lead them to accomplish the goals that, the things we told the American people we're going to do. Much better model than what we currently have, where again, few people top control everything.
And Chip, why don't you comment on the fact that if you're, I don't know, let's pull something out of the air. You're a race car driver and there's a race car committee. But you don't put the race car driver on the race car committee. He's over here on the school crossing committee. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, this is one of the reasons why during the primary, when we have these conversations, people ask the question of what committee do you want to be on. And the answer you guys will remember that I would give is, I don't really want to start playing that game now, because once you start playing the game of what committee you're going to be on, you're already playing on the turf of the Washington D.C. mentality. You're already saying, well, what do I need to do, sir, to please be given power by giving a place in this particular committee? Now, obviously, I want to be able to do whatever I can best do for the people of the 21st Congressional District of Texas. I think I would be a great fit on the House Judiciary Committee as a former prosecutor, as a former Assistant Attorney General, and somebody who's on the Senate Judiciary Committee. But I'm not going to go kiss a ring in order to get some status, because once you've done that, you've given up the one thing that you got, which is a vote, as a representative for the people of this district in the state of Texas.
One of the things I saw in the swamp was one of the freshman representatives real kind of looks in the camera and says, as long as you don't ask for anything, they're not going to get you. He said, as soon as you want something in Washington, you're done. So how do you go to Washington and not want something? I mean, how are you planning on dealing with that, Chip? This is a scary place.
Well, this is, and some of you have heard me make this point before. When people ask me, and I don't know, Congressman, how you answer this question, they say, well, why do these guys go off the rails? Why do the guys who say all this good stuff out on the campaign trail, when they go to Washington and they go south? And I'm talking about some of our more conservative stalwarts sometimes, right? When I say that, you go, I don't understand what happens. And the answer I've given typically when people ask that is one word: money. And I've talked about that in the context of pitches for fundraising, which I'm not going to do here because this is your all's event. But when I've explained the power of money in terms of how it makes people act, and when they have to go to, across the state of Texas, they go to River Oaks and Highland Park, and go to Westlake, and go to Alamo Heights to go raise money, or go to all of the PACs and the K Street lobbyists to go raise money. And I said, look, in the Republican primary this year in this district, we had 71,000 people show up to vote. If each one of those people gave $20, we'd have $1.5 million to be able to go out and totally reshape and change how the funding mechanism works, right? In other words, when the grassroots and when the people sort of feed that, then you've got not only the dollars to do it without having to go hat and hand out to folks that don't necessarily share their values, but more importantly, you've got the backing of an army of people in the district. Now, that's been working and resonating, and frankly, the vast majority of the people in this room I know personally have given to this campaign. And that means a lot. Because now I go to Washington and I say, look, I'm standing up to secure the border of the state of Texas in this country. I'm standing up to balance the budget. I'm standing up to make sure we get our healthcare freedom back so we can afford healthcare and get the doctor of our choosing. I want to make sure our men and women in uniform have a clear mission, have the tools they need and the care when they get home, and then I want you all to get the hell out of the way. And I've got your backing to be able to go and do that. And that's how you win.
Okay, thank you. So the border issue, I was in the Northwest for 10 years and went to college in Oregon, and most of my friends, you know, your college friends are the ones that stick with you for life. All my college friends are still hippies running around the woods in Oregon, and so I see them every now and then, and you know, they want to do things like public funding of elections, things like this. There's not a way to get money out of this without stepping on the First Amendment. So where do you have any crazy idea how we can get around this? Because there is millions and millions of PAC money, of big donors and all kinds of stuff that we don't know how to fight that sometimes.
No, and I don't think that's a problem. I think it comes down to just fundamentally, you have to let people have the will to do what they said. It's that basic. You got a guy who's going to do that. You know that. You're confident in him, I'm confident in him. But it's really that fundamental. And I think now as we see where the left is coming and some of the principles that we hold dear being attacked, I think even more people are waking up to the fact that we got to send the right folks there to fight for the right things. Because if we don't, Reagan said it, others have said it, this amazing experiment in liberty we call America may not be there. There's no guarantee. Every generation has to do it. My favorite statement, my background's in the sport of wrestling, but my favorite statement is actually made by a baseball player. I don't know if you Astros and Rangers fans there, but this guy pitched for the Dodgers a few years ago. Earl Hershiser took him to the World Series. They called him the Bulldog. Didn't have the best fastball, but he just knew how to win. And I read his book several years ago, and in the part of his book he says this: great things can happen to ordinary people who work hard and never give up. Great things happen to ordinary people who work hard and never give up. My favorite word in the statement is the word ordinary. You stop and think about it, we're all just ordinary people. Nobody's any better than anybody else. We're all in need of God's grace. But in this country, ordinary people have never had to do just ordinary things. They can do extraordinary things if they're willing to work hard and never quit. And what scares me is when we start attacking the fundamentals of this country, this idea that there are now two standards. One set of rules for us regular folk, but a different set if your name is Clinton, Comey, Lynch, Lerner, McCain, that is wrong. And when you start attacking the First Amendment, when you start attacking just the fundamental, don't protect it. Every sovereign country should know what's happening on their border and have a right to control their border. You start attacking the fundamentals, you are going to make it difficult in the future for ordinary people to set goals and have dreams and actually accomplish them for themselves and their families. That's what's at stake. And you all know that, and that's why you're fighting. But when you boil it all down, it comes down to that. And you think about, in the end, the attacks the left had on the fundamental institution in our culture. Never forget, the first institution the good Lord put together wasn't the church, wasn't the state, it was the family, right? Moms, dads, and kids. And there's an attack on that institution now all the time. So this is what's at stake. And when the left gets to do these things, we jeopardize what Hershiser talked about. Ordinary folk accomplishing extraordinary things, great things, because they're working hard. That's in jeopardy because of what we're seeing. That's why we fight the things we fight for.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I just want to add one thing to that. And a lot of you know my background. There's a few people here who may not know. My family came to Texas in Hayes County, Texas, that came to Dripping Springs. And my great-great-grandfather was a Texas Ranger. And I didn't know that lockdown for sure until Joe Davis, wherever Joe is out here somewhere, it helped me confirm and go back and look through my family history and confirm that in fact he had signed up when we were still dealing with Comanche hostilities, right? So he signed up to help us in the early 1870s. My great-great-grandmother was born in San Marcos and married my great-great-grandfather. My family migrated west. My dad was born in Sweetwater, Texas. And my grandfather, he passed away of cancer when my dad was 7. My dad had polio. My grandmother was a single mom, was raising my 7-year-old polio-stricken dad, my 2-year-old uncle. And my great-grandfather lost the farm in the Depression, was the janitor at the First Presbyterian Church in Sweetwater. And my grandmother took multiple jobs, woke up early, took my dad places to be able to figure out how to walk, went down to Kerrville to the Alliance Camp for crippled kids, as they called it back then, and helped make sure that he could walk. My dad is 75 years old today and walked. He's the first who went to college. He went to Texas Tech University. Then he had a son, their only child, who then went on to go to college, and now the first to go to graduate school. That is America. That is the Texas values that makes this state great. That's why 1,000 people a day are moving to Texas right now, every single day, seeking freedom. The woman that I met in Bernie came up to me at an event about a month ago and gave me a $1,000 check and said, Chip, you have to win and you have to save this state from Washington because I've got nowhere else to go and I just moved here from California 2 weeks ago. And that's what we all know makes us great, and that's the story of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things.
All right, hang on to that mic for a minute, Chip. I made a big mistake on Thursday. It's kind of like watching too many episodes of The Walking Dead in a row. You know, you'll have zombie nightmares. So Thursday, I didn't know that C-SPAN had an app for your phone, and I listened all day while I was at work. I listened to the hearings all day. Listened, I didn't see them, but I heard them all day while I was working, while I was in the shop. And then I came home, and that evening, Gail and I looked at some more, went back and looked some more of it, looked at it again, and then I sat down and I rewatched 3 or 4 of the episodes of The Swamp. All of this in one day. Folks, do not do this. It was dangerous. It was really dangerous. And here's what I felt about 11 o'clock that night, Chip. How do you answer someone who comes up to you and says, I've had it, I'm going to go buy a bottle of Jack Daniels, I'm done. Because I'm telling you, we got some few chuckles out of that, but I'm dead serious. I've had a lot of people just say, this is insane, this is nuts, this is crazy, I don't want anything to do with it, I'm done, let's go get some Jack Daniels, we're done.
I mean, tempting, I guess, but 7 years ago, many of you know this, it'll be 7 years ago next week, when I was given the all clear sign at MD Anderson from stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma after having been in chemotherapy that I started in August of 2011. I was working for Governor Perry. I thought I was going to be in Charleston, South Carolina, kicking off his presidential campaign, and instead I was down with tubes in my arms getting chemotherapy. Now, many of you in this room have dealt with that, or had family members who've dealt with that, so it doesn't make me unique, but what it did do for me, I was done with public service at that point. I'd served in the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'd been a federal prosecutor, I'd done my part working for Governor Perry, and I thought I was done, but the good Lord has a funny way of kicking me in the pants, and when I came out of the other end of that, I was given another lease of life, and I had my 2-month-old baby daughter, and our 4-month-old baby daughter, and my 2-year-old son. I said to myself, and Karen and I sat down and we prayed about it, and we said, we're going to get busy working together to save this republic to pass down to our kids. And that's what we're doing. We know we live in the greatest state, the greatest country the world has ever known. Now that's a statement you can throw around on political stages and you get applause, and that's wonderful. But we know it. That's what we are doing, that's what we are fighting for. That is what Congressman Jordan is fighting for in the second greatest state. And that's what we're doing. We know that, right? It's you're looking at your kids. You say you want them to be able to have the freedom that you've enjoyed, or that your parents, your grandparents enjoyed. You want them to be able to get the doctor they're choosing, get the health care they're choosing, not have $175,000 of debt that's hanging around their neck as every taxpayer in America has right now. Those are the things that get you up to continue to fight. And like I said before, I believe we're winning the fight. I believe that we're moving the needle on life, where our Texas Right to Life crowd is, and on the freedom to the education you're choosing, and on gun rights and Gun Owners America, and all of the groups here that are fighting. We're winning. And as I said before, rattling through the senators and the congressmen that exist, the existence of the House Freedom Caucus. If you would have asked 6 years ago, that the House Freedom Caucus would have the power, the influence that it has in Washington right now, people look at you like you're crazy. But they do. They're now in all of the headlines and all of the questions, like, all right, what's the House Freedom Caucus going to do? They now have power and they have leverage. Why? Because of everybody in this room making it happen. So that's why you don't go grab the Jack Daniels, maybe for like a minute. But then you put that down, you can have a fight.
Let me share a quick story about the second greatest state. This is true. It's not a story about Ohio necessarily, it's a story about America. So a few years ago, we got some good friends. We live north of Dayton, Ohio, in the western part of the state. We had some good friends of ours in Dayton, and they said, wanted to know, it was in the summertime, can Paul and I come down and go to dinner with Jim and Cam, our friends? We said, sure. He said, well, before we go to dinner, we're going to tour the Wright brothers' home in Oakwood, part of Dayton, Ohio. We said, great. We like that. We live in an old house, and we like that kind of thing. So we get on there, you go to pay $5, historical citation on the tour. And you learn all kinds of neat things about these two amazing Ohioans, two amazing Americans. The last room on the tour is one of the brothers' bedrooms. Can't remember which one, but one of the brothers' bedrooms. They tell you a few more things about this particular Wright brother, and then they show you two pictures. First picture they hold up, that first flight, 1903, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, in this thing they call an airplane, right? This contraption. Barely got off the ground, flew a couple hundred feet. And they show you that picture, and you're like, well, I remember that. You know, whenever you learn in school, 7th, 8th grade, whenever you go, okay, well, that's kind of neat. I remember that in school. They put that down. They hold up a second picture, 1947, Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier. Now that I didn't know, and I'm like, wow, 44 years, two guys flying like 100 feet, get like 4 foot off the ground in this contraption thing they call a plane. 44 years later, another American breaks the sound barrier. I'm like, that's amazing. And that was literally, that was the end of the tour. And I'm walking out the door, and as I'm walking out the door, it hit me like, well, wait a minute. Why did they stop there? I represent Wapakoneta, Ohio, hometown of Neil Armstrong. So think about this. Whenever you think about the Jack Daniels, think about this fact. 1903, two Ohioans fly for the first time, like 100 feet. 66 years later, another Ohio, another American steps on the moon. Don't ever tell me this isn't the greatest nation ever. This is an amazing place. Our job is real simple. Our job is straight from Scripture. My favorite verse, 2 Timothy 4:7. I love this verse because Paul's the old guy giving advice to the young guy Timothy, right? And he says what? Fight the good fight, finish the course, keep the faith. And I tell people, I feel like that's a verse written to America, right? Because it's a verse of action. Fight, finish, keep. We're not a timid folk. We're like people of action. Fight, finish, keep. Fight for those things that matter, that made us special, that allowed the Wright brothers and Neil Armstrong and Chuck Yeager to do what they did. Fight for those things. Finish strong. If we do that, we'll be fine. It's going to be tough, but life's not supposed to be easy. Just the way God made it. But if we do that and keep that verse in mind, we're going to be just fine. We won't need the Jack Daniels.
There you go. I couldn't agree more on that. Which I pointed out on the campaign trail a lot, which is that moonwalk occurred in 1969, which was a decade before the Department of Education ever existed. Oh my goodness. So I had a lot of people, you know, we've been hearing over the last year the terms deep state and the bureaucrats and staffers running things. Talk to us about that. Are you not on a subcommittee that's dealing with some of these deep state issues, or I think?
I'll be quick because I think this audience knows how bad this is. As I said before, I thought what we saw at the IRS, where they systematically, and frankly for a sustained period of time, went after folks just like you, putting you on the list, made it difficult, harassed you, everything else. I thought that was the worst thing I'd ever seen from the government. I mean, think about what they did. They think about the First Amendment, your right to assemble, your right to petition your government, your right to practice your faith the way you want to, freedom of the press. But the First Amendment is mostly about what? Your right to do what? Speak. What I'm doing right now, and not just any old speech, But what kind of speech? Political speech. And what did the IRS target? People's political speech. Like, I mean, this is crazy. You can't do this in America. They did it. I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever seen until this FBI thing came along. And now, understand what took place here. In simple terms, the top people at the FBI, the very top people, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, Baker, Rubicki, the people who ran the Clinton investigation, launched and ran the Trump-Russia investigation, they took one party's Oppo research document, paid for by the Democrats, paid for by the Clinton campaign, complete garbage, National Enquirer baloney. They took one party's Oppo research document that we call the dossier, took it to a secret court to get a warrant to spy on a fellow citizen associated with the Trump campaign. One party's document, dress it all up, make it look like legitimate intelligence, take it to a court to get a warrant to spy on the other party's campaign. That is never supposed to happen in this country, but it did. And now they're making it difficult for us to get the information, and I'm just bound and determined. I don't care what they say, how many roadblocks they put up, I don't care what kind of BS stories they bring out about me, I am going to fight to get that information so you all can know exactly what our FBI investigators.
Wow, how do you follow that? I co-sponsor. Do you think term limits will make a difference, Jim? Do you think term limits would make a difference if we're fighting a bureaucracy in a hidden state in a sense? Does term limits then make a change? Does that make a difference? And what are our chances of getting that? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think term limits are extraordinarily important in terms of both sending a message to Washington and ending the madness. But let's be honest, the average term I think is roughly 8, 9 years or something like that. So if you had sort of 10, 12-year term limits, which seem to be kind of the most likely kind of strike point, what you probably wouldn't do is affect the vast majority of the members, but what you would do is kind of lop off the top of these guys that have been around for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, these geezers that just sit around and keep messing things up. And that's I think the true benefit of term limits. And I know where the convention of states guys are. Obviously, they're working really hard to make sure that that's something that we're moving around the country to put forward term limits. And obviously, there are other planks in terms of spending and fiscal restraint and reducing the size and scope of Washington. But I think from the bureaucracy, from that standpoint, really what it is all about is we need to make Article 1 great again, right? I mean, you want to really think about it, and my biggest takeaway from what we've been seeing with the court and with Kavanaugh and all of this is Congress has just forsaken its Article 1 responsibility to actually lead and actually represent the people and not turn all the power over to the executive branch and the judiciary, right? What did the previous Republicans in Congress do when it came to subsidies and insurance subsidies and Obamacare? They ran to the courts and sued, saying, oh, well, they can't do subsidies. Then what happened when the Republicans were in power? They couldn't work fast enough to try to do the very subsidies that they went to court to sue to stop. I mean, it's true. I mean, and it's extraordinary. Why would you go to the courts to exercise your Article 1 responsibility? When I was in the Attorney General's office with Attorney General Paxton, and we were fighting the work that was started by Governor Abbott when he's in the AG's office to fight to stop the deferred amnesty, right, or the deferred DACA, right? And we got into court and we won in the Southern District, we won in the 5th Circuit, it was upheld in the Supreme Court. It's awesome, right? Well, we didn't know what panel we would get, and we didn't know what would happen in the court. So in the spring of 15, when we went to the Senate, we went and presented the state of the case to the United States Senate Republican Conference. And we said, guys, here's where it stands. We don't know what we'll get. We don't know what kind of panel we'll get. You guys can just defund it. Just stop. Just end it right now from Congress's purge. And nothing. Crickets. They couldn't be happier that a group of 25 states were in court litigating it. Man, I sure hope you guys win. We're on to whatever, the next party in Washington. But that's the reality of what we face there. Why do I bring all that up? Again, it's Article 1 responsibility being punted to the courts. Article 1 responsibility being punted to the bureaucrats in the executive branch. A lot of that is starting to be recognized because of what? President Trump is shining a light on a lot of this deep state, or whatever you want to call it, all of the stuff going on in the executive branch. I can give a lot of examples of it, and I won't spend enough time, but there are clear activities going on in all of the other agencies, not just what Congressman Jordan just pointed out. Friends of mine in the Department of Energy, working for Governor Perry, having to go fight to get documents out of the hands of bureaucrats that are hiding them from the secretary. It's happening, literally, as we speak daily. So that's how we gotta root that out and take their power back.
I know the hour's getting late, so I'll let I can't say it any better.
Okay, and you're right, we are getting late. Congressman Jordan has, I believe, a 6 o'clock flight in the morning.
I didn't mean that. I mean, I'll say
No, we are, actually, I was about to say that. Would you go ahead and kind of give us some closing words of encouragement, tell us how you need us. What do you need us to do? How do you keep me away from the Jack Daniels? Because I'm telling you, I would love to quit and go lay on the beach somewhere. And I know I can't do it, but it
You
gets
can't do that.
so frustrating. How can we help you? What can we do?
Like, look, Americans were made to compete. Americans were made to be active. And just who we are is, think about the folks that started this place. Over in Europe, they said you got to practice your faith a certain way. And they said, no, we don't. No, we don't. We're willing to get on a ship, risk it all, and come to this place where we can practice that's the heritage of this country. So the two things you can do is, one, help the president, support the president. Many of you probably had a chance to meet him, some of you may have not. But I wish every single American could spend time with our commander-in-chief. He is a good man. He loves, where's our law enforcement guy? Texas Rangers, people, law enforcement, our veterans, the hard-working regular. This president, there is a passion and an intensity and a charisma about this guy. He loves this country. So supporting the president is critically important. And then you got to help Chip win. Look, he should win this race. It's a pretty good district, but it's an interesting year, and it's an open seat. And the left has got all this crazy blue money coming from both coasts. And you know the kind of guy he is. I say this all the time. There are folks in public life who you wish were not, right? Most of them are Democrats, right? But then there are people like Chip Roy, who you chose to get involved in public service. I mean, the passion, the energy, but the values and the principles that you want in someone in public life. So help him win, help Ted win. Golly, we got to make sure he wins the Senate race. So that's our charge. And look, we got, 38 days now? 39 days? 30-some days to frame it up like I think we got to frame it up. They're crazy. They want to do all these crazy things. Here's what the president's accomplished. Here's the things we have to do that will not get done if Democrats are in control. There will not be a border security wall ever done if they're in control. There will not be welfare reform done if they're in control. And there will not be a replacement of Obamacare if they're in control. It just will not happen. Do you think we're going to defund Planned Parenthood if they're in control? No. So those things only have a chance to happen if we keep Republicans in control. And they will impeach the president who we all elected if they take back the House. So help Chip Roy win, help him win big so he sends a message like 60-some%. Great.
I want to say a couple quick things to close out. Number one, I want to thank Matt Long and I want to thank Angela Smith for putting on this great event. Where's Angela? The Tea Party, all of everybody's here. You guys are the heart and soul of the party. You're the heart and soul of everything that's happening. This is the energy and enthusiasm that we can take forward to win in November. I can't thank you all enough. I also want to thank Matt McCall. Matt McCall has run twice before for this evening. He ran hard. This is a guy who loves this country.
And the only thing I want to say in closing is this, is that I know what you were talking about, Matt, in terms of sort of the Thursday night and the Jack Daniels, right? But we have the opportunity of a lifetime right now with a president that Congressman Jordan just described, who's willing to shake up the swamp, take on challenge the status quo. And we've got the opportunity to truly transform the country. What usually happens in a midterm election like this is we let the pendulum swing back. We let them grab the mantle. We have the opportunity right now to stop that, to stand athwart the blue wave, to prove that we're Texas, that we're going to lead like our forefathers in 1835 and 1836 and being willing to stand up and fight, that we're going to stand up on the wall. We have the opportunity to do that and truly send a message to Washington. I can't tell you enough how much we can accomplish if we do that. We can have a secure border, we can have healthcare freedom, we can have a balanced budget if you guys keep doing and keep fighting and make sure we win. Let me tell you this last point. Senator Cruz needs your help.
Yes.
$9 million came in for federal work in August alone. $10 million in the second quarter from 200,000 donors. We will win on the back of the 1.5 million Republicans who showed up in March versus the 1 million Democrats if we do our job and they show up. But we need to all join together and do that. If we do that, we will have the greatest state in the greatest country in the world forever. So thank you all very much.